Alright guys, Travis here, Perth Diesel Performance. Today's video, it's all about Hilux's fuel filtration kits and diff breathers. We're going to break it down into two videos because they're two separate kits and we've comboed them together. But in this video, we're going to talk about the diff breathers. So here's the kit here, one box. It mounts to our fuel filtration kit and we're going to go step by step so you can watch this video and it's an easy DIY at home. What will it do for you? It's going to do your front diff, your rear diff, your gearbox and your transfer case. It's going to protect your investment for all those water crossings. Alright, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notifications on when we drop the video link for part 2, how to fit your fuel kit. Oh, and a quick disclaimer, I've got a fresh cut. What you're about to watch is shot from some time ago, so here it is. This is an intro and you're about to see me from 12 months ago. The passenger side of the vehicle, so we've got the main battery at the front here, we've got the factory fuel filtration, factory fuel filter mounted here, we've got the injector drivers here, so the end result is this is still going to stay in the same situation, same position. This will position up here, mounted along here to one of our stainless steel brackets, and then we're going to have the secondary filter is going to be mounted up here. We're also going to fit off our breather kit as well. We're going to combo that in this video because the front diff breather's under here and all our breathers are mounted onto our stainless steel bracketry, which I'll show you when we open the box. I just want to make a special note as well. This vehicle is a mine spec vehicle, does have this isolating solenoid here. However, there is a large opening here. That is where generally your dual batteries are going to go in the front of a Hilux. We do have a Hilux dual battery kit coming on the market, so stay tuned. It will work with all of our products. They don't cross over each other's footprint. So you will have the fuel kit, the breather kit, and if you do have other battery kits as well, you will see the end result where it lines up, so have a look at that as well. You can do it with the battery in situ. If you've got lots of wiring, it's a bit crazy, you may want to move some of it to give you a little bit more room to work with. But let's jump into opening the boxes and I'll show you what's in the contents. Okay, so let's open up the boxes and run through the contents. First thing, most important thing, we've got the instructions there, bit of promo sticker there as well, one stainless steel bracket, fitting kit, support bracket, one fuel head. Don't need that stuff, we'll pick it up later. So we've got one fuel head, it's all fitted off. Also we've got our hose there as well, stainless steel brackets, nuts, bolts, hose clamps, and also the 5 micron filter. So we'll whack that on there. Diff breather kit as well. Link the hose, breather block, all our fittings, everything we need there. Once again, trust the instructions. One thing I want to make a note of as well, we've obviously got the contents, general tools you're going to need to get the job done. That may vary with other accessories in the vehicle. It's got colour picture instructions, step by step, and also obviously it's got all our tech backup as well. If you have any dramas, you can shoot us an email and a picture. And once again, same thing, 2 instructions, one for the fuel kit, one for the breather kit. So straightforward. What we're going to do is we are going to jump into doing the little bit of pre-fit up on the fuel kit first, but first of all we'll get the breathers in the front and the diff, and I'll show you why that is. Okay, so let's run through the tool kit I've got here for the breathers. Phillips head screwdriver, I've got some flush cuts for the zip ties, some long nose pliers for the hose clamps, I've got an 8 and a 13 mil. I've got various other spanners here as well from the other tool kit I had out earlier. 532 Allen key, that's so we can do this little breather insert for the rear diff. A Stanley knife and a 10 mil on a ratchet. So let's jump over to the vehicle now. Okay, so first things, got the instructions, first page. We're just going to get the factory fuel filter out of the way and just make some adjustments. So this is a retaining strap. Just going to undo the connector off the back here. Flat bladed screwdriver if you've got fat fingers, and just push in the detent. And obviously we will undo just going to move the injector driver out of the way. So now that can move out of the way, give us a bit more room. Factory fuel filter, once you've got them undone, it's literally just going to pull up and you can get access to the factory bracket. So you've got a couple of 6mm or 10mm headed bolts, 2 here, another one here, another one there, and then there's one more under this bracket down here, and that'll take the bracket out of the vehicle. Obviously you'll see here as well, we do need to take out the factory retaining clip here, so we'll just take that off. So it's taking that trim clip off. So as you can see, factory brackets out of the vehicle now. We just want to take this little clip off here. That will slide into our stainless steel replacement. So it's just a matter of flicking this little tab in the back and it will slide down and flick into our new bracket. Okay, so this little clip in here may need a little pick. Flat blade screwdriver might be a little bit too big to get in there. And literally just going to flick that tab up and away you go. Going to get the stainless steel and slide it into there, and what you'll see is the cable lock that I took out before will click back into that when we refit it to the vehicle. So before we put this in the car, I'll show you how it dummies up, but better. End result is you're going to line up, there's 2 holes there and then all the bolt holes along in the bodywork. That is going to go there nicely, and then the fuel filter will click back into play and we'll plumb up the fuel filter. But before we go and get the fuel filter all bolted off and bolt this bracket in, it's going to be much easier to have all that out of the way and to work on these breather ports here for the front diff. So what we want to do now is take these breather ports out and we'll get it all plumbed up for the diff breather, because once we've got that in, then we can bolt that bracket in and move back on. So you can see we've got plenty of room down there. Just taking them out of the clip that lodges them, just so I can work with them. There we go. So as you can see there, got 2 breathers. Just going to pull one of these out. And I'm just twisting and turning and pulling at the same time the larger hose one. So as you'll see now, I've just got the 2 hoses. And we'll take that, we don't need that anymore. Okay, so where our front diff breathers are, we've got this fitting here. This larger one with the brass is going to replace this one. What we want to do there is a 10mm and a 14mm. Just going to nip them up now. So that's got a quick connect connector in there with a hose. Literally that's going to jump into there. It's going to come into our merging piece. The other piece here is we're going to trim that. I'm going to put a little bit of a 45 on it, a bit of silicone spray. I'm going to push it into the rubber hose that's down there, the smaller hose that was this one. And then I'll put a small zip tie around the hose, like so, and pull it up with long nose pliers and lock it in place. I'm just showing you off the car because obviously in there it's a bit tight for space, but I'll actually put this into the rubber hose, the larger one. I'll feed this in there and then I'll cut them side by side so I've got the lengths right on the vehicle. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I just wanted to show you externally of the vehicle so you can see what I was actually going to do. Okay, so I've cut that at a 45. Just put a bit of silicone spray on there, and we're just going to push that into the hose, like I said, just so we can get it nicely in there. Alright, so we've got that in there. You can see that okay. So now we're going to put the other one in, and we'll zip tie that in place. So we've just got the larger one now. Now we'll put a zip tie around both of them to secure them in. Just going to use a long nose set of pliers here. I'm just going to roll them around, and I'll just get the zip ties nice and tight, and then I'll use some flush cuts. Okay, so I've just trimmed the end of that hose off, pushed it in, give it a bit of a firm pull on it, make sure you're happy with it. Same thing with this one, that's not going anywhere. Oh, look at that, did that pretty good, done this a few times. So now they're the same length, I'll put on my joining piece. There you have it. They're our front dip breathers merged up, ready to come up to our breather block. I'll leave that till last because then that's a short little run into our breather block up here. So now we can work on running the hose down for the rear, and then obviously once we've done that, that's our longest run. This is here, it's only a little bit of short stuff off the start of the roll. We'll do the longest run at the back of the vehicle, what's left over, then we'll come back over and we'll do the gearbox. Okay, so we're at the back of the car. We're going to start at the rear diff. We've got our hose. Like I say, we'll unravel this, give it a stretch out, get it nice and straight. We have got a 14mm spanner. We're going to take off the breather up there, and then we are going to fit straight fitting, no ring fit into the diff. Allen key, do it up, job done. I just want to point out the factory rear diff on the Hilux. You'll see it's this guy here. So we're going to undo that and obviously run all the hose up there. But you can see it doesn't have an extension hose running it to where I'd say is least acceptable, is to the top of the chassis rail, which is on like 200 series and 70 series, stuff like that. So that's quite low, that's the center line of your axle. So we just pop out the outside of the wheel. We had a quick measure before, and we're talking 370mm. That's why we're putting a breather kit in a Hilux, so we can get the weighting point as high as possible and all in one serviceable location. So let's get into that rear diff again. Okay, so 14mm spanner. Just going to undo this guy. Alright, so screw that guy out. Remember, this fitting is an O-ring fit as well. This fitting that came out was a tapered fitting. So now we are just going to find the hole. Thumb and forefinger, and that fitting's ready to go. So now we can run the hose. Okay, so at the front of the Hilux, on the passenger side, I've just got the little red pointer, so if we follow this for camera purposes, we're just going to start here. We're going to follow the fuel lines down, so running down the chassis, and we're going to come down here. Remembering this car's got a long range tank, so it is going to be a bit harder to fit and get some long zip ties up there to do so. But when that tank's not there, it's pretty easy to do. So coming along there and literally running to the fuel lines there, and then once you come over the other side, we're then going to follow this wiring harness. This is the factory wiring harness for all your ABS and wheel speed sensors. We're going to run down to there, and then we'll trim it off and fit it off into the rear diff. Okay, so we're just locating the gearbox and the transfer case and the transfer case full drive actuator breathers. So we're in the driver's side wheel arch. We've just got down the trim, so I just want to show you where it is. So there's a couple of ways you can access it. Just jump in there, and I've just got a long handle screwdriver, so you can see here on the back there, the first one, the larger one, is the transmission breather. The two smaller hose ones, black hoses behind it, are the actual transfer case and locker actuator. So we'll actually go up top and I'll show you a view from there as well. You can't really reach them too well from here. Up top you can get to them, and once you've dislodged them, we'll go downstairs, we'll go underneath of the vehicle and we'll plumb them in. It's much easier once you've unclipped them. The length of the hoses will drop down the side of the gearbox and we'll fit them off. Okay, so we're up in the engine bay. We're just trying to get a camera angle so we could show you. We're dislodging the gearbox breathers. Making sure obviously the car's stone cold, so in other words it's been sitting overnight or a few hours, so none of the exhaust system is hot at all. Just putting my hand around the back and I'm just dislodging the breathers. I'm just pushing them further down under the vehicle and I can show you what we need to do with them. Okay, so before we go under the vehicle, we've got our leftover length of breather tube. I've just got these ends here. I'm just going to poke them down so when we go underneath, we're just done once. It's a bit curly tube, but it's alright. It's just somewhere where we can reach. Alright, so now we'll go underneath, pull that tube through, and we'll fit off the fittings. Okay, so we've put the vehicle in the air or got it under the vehicle. These are the transmissions, so the transfer case and the rear full drive actuator locker. And then further up here, the larger tube, you're going to see this is the transmission breather. So we'll do that one first. Now, before I pull that fitting out, you're going to see here, I've done a 14mm and a 10mm, tighten this up. We're going to push that into the hose, put a zip tie around it, and this one's ready to go. And also locate those two hoses that I fed down from the top. End result is they are going to push into there. So we'll go and get that fitting out. Okay, so I've got the brass barb pushed all the way in. I'm just going to small zip tie it just for a bit of security. And cut him off with some flush cuts. And once I've done that, and I'll just cut the end of the hose. You'll see here where I've had it in a vise just to stretch the hose out. Now, these aren't twisted. We'll push him back up because then we'll pull him back into situ when we're done, and we'll work on these two here now. There we go, a bit more length. So there is a clip as well, you'll see just here, clips onto the harness, so it's going to give you a lot more space to work on, which is good because once again what we're going to do here is push in little offcuts of the tube and convert it into one, and then push in our T-piece, and then keep going up, and two hoses go over to our breather block on the passenger side of the vehicle. Okay, so I've put those hoses in. I did use a little bit of silicone spray just to help me feed them in. Just going to get long nose pliers and sort of grab the cable and then roll the zip tie, and you'll see it sort of pulls the zip tie nice and tight onto the hose. That way we can trim these back now. And going to be the right length. Get our hose cutters. And job done there. We're going to feed them back up. Should swap them around. They're curving up the firewall, and we can plug in the other end of this guy. Nice clean cut. Push that in. And one thing I want to make a note of, obviously this clip here, don't forget to clip that back onto the harness back up the top. Just be mindful as well, this tin guard here is quite thin and it's pretty sharp too, so it will get you. Okay, so we're just at the front. We've finished off with the lines. We've zip tied them all off. We're just feeding this front one. We're just pretty much going to follow the fuel line up to where the fuel filter is. Then when we let the vehicle down, I'll go back up top. We'll finish pinning the cable off. We're just going to put one more zip tie down here and then we're ready to go upstairs. Okay, so we've just fed the lines. You'll see here we've gone behind the aircon lines, behind the brake lines. We've put some zip ties down here as well. Tied it all in situ. Just haven't cut them off yet, so I'm just going to keep going along here and follow the brake lines across the engine bay and heading over to the final destination on the passenger side of the engine bay. Okay, so you'll see we've got the zip ties. We've just got to trim them off over here. Now I've gone under this loom and end result is the lines are going to come up here and put into the breathers from behind. And we've got plenty of hose left over, so we've got one more line to plug in and that'll be to this guy, and then they'll route over and join alongside these other three pipes. So we'll just go ahead and take some excess length off. Okay, so I've plugged in this Diff Breather one that I was mentioning earlier. Once again, got plenty of hose length, so I'll literally cut them off there, then it's just a bit easy to work with. We can feed them through the stainless steel bracket, which is going to be our next step to mount off, and then we can continue on with our fuel filtration kit once all the breathers are finished. Okay, so next step, we're going to prepare the breather block before we mount it onto the stainless steel bracket. So obviously pop that out of its bag. The breathers go on the top. 12mm, we're just going to nip them, and I'll just literally start at one end, work your way to the other end, because otherwise you're not going to get the spanner in there. However, these ones here, you can put a socket over the top of them, so that does work, but when it comes to the push lock fittings at the bottom, you can't use a socket on them. They do need to be fitted off with a spanner. The reason is you won't get a socket over the top of them. So starting at one end, and continue all the way down. Once again, mentioned it before, there's an O-ring on there that's doing all the sealing surface, so you don't need to go to town on them. Okay, so that is all ready. We can grab our breathers, and obviously it's going to sit that way. This side is the engine. Breather blocks going to face out towards me through these two holes here, and the hoses are going to pop through there. So we're actually going to pop this guy like so, and then we'll get an 8mm open end spanner and a Phillips head screwdriver, and we'll tighten them up in situ. Oop, dropped one. And that's the finished product there. So now it's all prepped, ready to go on the vehicle. Once it's mounted, we can pop the hoses through, and you can see from when you're out on the edge of the fender guard, you can see the hoses. You can push them out from behind and you'll see them lock into the fittings. So now we'll go to the vehicle, and we've got a series of the 6mm bolts that are going to go in here, 2 in here, and obviously we've got a support strap that's going to go on the top. So let's fit that off. Okay, so we've just dummied up the bracket in there, started the threads all in where they need to go. So I've got 6 bolts in there, 2 on the top, 4 in the side. So they're all started. We've even got the little support bracket here as well. So now we'll go along and tighten that bracket off. You'll notice what I've done there. I've just pulled the bracket in and down, and then I'm going to go along and I'll do the other bolts up. Alright, so that's all located now. You can check it by hand ratchet or with a spanner. You'll see we can clip the breather tubes in there. We can put another zip tie around there just to locate them in there. Then we've guided them around the back of the factory fuel filter. We'll come in the first hole up here, and then obviously we'll plumb them into this guy here, so we'll do a nice loop. And may need to shorten this length down here, down on this guy here, just to give you a nicer loop, just depending on the installation and other accessories and wiring that you've got in the way. And then we can feed these through the other existing holes and plumb them off, and that'll be your breathers finished. Okay, so now we've fed the lines through and it's time to trim them off. So I'm just going to push it down a little bit so the hose is sitting nice, and then we'll get some cutters and cut it square. This one here is the front one, obviously. Push that into place, and we'll go along, cut each one, push it in. You might want to just look down the back edge down here as well and just check where the routing of your breather tubes are and fuel filters and where you're happy with them before you cut it. Just the last check, and get them all in place. Okay, so we've just connected all the breather hoses in there, checked all the lengths, we've got all them in there. You'll see it's a finished result now. And now we can revert back to finishing off the plumbing and installation of our fuel head and connecting the fuel lines. So that's the breathers all done on the vehicle. The next step, once the bracket's all bolted in, as per the instructions and we did earlier, is to put the support strap in here as well. So what we want to do is undo this 10mm headed nut on the firewall, and then insert this guy. Is going to slide in there, and it's also going to bolt to the bracket here, and then the injector driver that we took off earlier as well is going to mount in there like so, and that supports the top of the fuel head bracket, stops all the panting around, and relocates the injector driver module as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll remove that 10mm nut, and we'll get it all located. Okay, so I've just got a 10mm deep socket, spin that nut off. Now, just a tip, I suppose, firewalls on vehicles, a lot of these studs are just what we refer to as spot welded on or press welded on. You don't want to get anything that's got heaps of leverage, so you'll notice that I'm only using a little quarter drive ratchet. You don't want to snap that stud off the firewall. And then what we're going to do is just going to lightly remove the factory plastic wiring harness locator. You'll see what I mean by the stud down here. It is just welded onto the firewall, so just be careful with it. We're just going to slide that on, drop that over the top, and refit the nut. Just going to do it finger tight. We're not going to tighten it up as such. We're just going to locate everything. And see, it's nice, it's loose, it's just fitting there. And you'll see that'll sit in there, and you'll get your last M6 nut and bolts that comes in the fitting kit. Drop that through. One thing you'll notice here as well, you see the locating tab. I can show you that locating tab there goes into the little notch, so that locates the driver. And then do this up. And we can make sure everything is situated right, and you'll see here as well, you'll see the bracket can move. We haven't tightened anything up, so we're getting it in a relaxed position. The bracket actually does move all the way over, so it's made for a little bit of variation from guard to bulkhead. Just got two 10mm spanners now, and we are going to tighten this back set up, and that will locate and give the bracket support. It's one thing we make sure with all our kits as well, bracketry's got extra brackets, all supporting hardware, so from an off-road point of view and corrugations, a lot of things are going to move. You're not going to see it moving, so we're making sure obviously we've got a lot of strength and support brackets to suit. You may need to just give the factory bracket a little bit of a tweak just to square this driver up and just give you a little bit of clearance on your wiring. So now nothing's touching, all the wiring's all supported and everything's away. Alright, that's how easy it is to fit Diff Breathers to your Hilux. Make sure you subscribe for the next notification on this guy right here. It's the fuel kit for your Hilux. So we've finished the breathers off. We've lifted the breather weighting height from 700mm to 1100mm on a factory Hilux. If you've got any questions or concerns, comment below or get in touch with us today, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.